College Football 25 Road to Glory. What happens when the top high school quarterback prospect heads to the Army to run their triple option offense? Enter Zaccheus Randle, following his dad's footsteps. Zaccheus traded Atlanta's bright lights for West Point's grueling discipline, and adjusting wasn't easy. 5 a.m. wake-ups, military routines, and playing in an offense that required precision and toughness. The Army started hot, even pulling off a couple of nail-biting wins against teams like FAU and Temple, thanks to Z's athleticism and clutch plays, but the season took a toll. He ran the ball constantly, took hit after hit, and by mid-season, cracks were starting to show. Reporters questioned his mental toughness, and his mom worried that he wasn't having fun playing the game anymore. Still, Z finished strong, leading the Army to a Military Bowl win and a 6-6 record. But after constant injuries and limited progression as a passer, Zaccheus made the tough call to transfer to Oregon, and it was time for a fresh start. Zaccheus joined the Ducks with high expectations, stepping into the starting role on a preseason #1 ranked Ducks team. The Ducks' spread offense was a breath of fresh air. Finally, Z could show off his passing skills alongside his trademark mobility. The season opener against Florida was a nail-biter, but Z's late-game magic sealed the win, and he only got better from there. The Ducks rolled to an 8-0 start with Z throwing for 17 touchdowns by mid-season, already surpassing his total from the Army. He built trust with his new weapons like standout receiver Jerian Dickey while balancing Oregon's up-tempo offense. Still, setbacks came. A tough loss to Washington and question about Z's academic struggles added pressure, but he rebounded with a dominant Big Ten championship performance, punching Oregon's ticket to the playoffs. While the season ended with a close Rose Bowl loss to Ohio State, Z's growth both on and off the field set the stage for an exciting junior season. Zaccheus Randle's junior year was all about redemption, but it didn't start as planned. After a tough offseason training with family, including his brother Jordan and Uncle Marcus, the Ducks lost their opener to Ohio State. Randle played well, but drops from relentless pressure cost them. A shocking loss to Boise State followed, and Oregon struggled continued with a heartbreaking 0-3 start, including a collapse against Oregon State. Zaccheus rallied the team mid-season with wins over Washington and Illinois, showing flashes of brilliance with his legs and deep throws, but turnovers and a lack of offensive help plagued him. Oregon's season ended in a crushing fashion with an overtime loss to UCLA, leaving them at 5-7 and missing a bowl game. Randle finished with 34 passing TDs and 7 rushing scores, but struggled with turnovers in his junior season, casting doubt on his NFL draft stock. With Jordan now representing him as his agent and Uncle Marcus beginning his coaching career, Zaccheus hinted at a fresh start, determined to bounce back stronger. Can Zaccheus Randle recapture the hype that he came into college football with and increase his chances of getting drafted in the first round? Randle's senior season began with a bang as Georgia Southern upset ranked Kansas State thanks to Randle's leadership and clutch plays. Despite a rough interception and a brutal hit, he executed a game-winning drive showcasing his growing maturity. In week 2, he dismantled Houston's defense, throwing a career-best deep ball and exhibiting his newfound ability to manipulate defenses pre-snap. Randle's leadership extended beyond the field. Audibles, route adjustments, and his ability to elevate teammates like star receivers KD Dorsey and DeAndre Buchanan made Georgia Southern competitive against stronger programs. His dramatic fourth-quarter heroics, like against Eastern Michigan, and unmatched poise against Georgia, kept the Eagles' playoff hopes alive. Off the field, Randle's uncle Marcus Meadows faced NCAA tampering allegations, sidelining him as the DC. This didn't stop Randle, who carried the offense through adversity, turning critics into believers with a Nike deal and a 9-touchdown performance in the Sun Belt Championship. The Eagles earned a college football playoff spot as the 12th seed. With his uncle reinstated just in time, Randle set out to prove why he belonged among the Heisman elite, while taking Georgia Southern into uncharted territory in the CFP. It was time for the CFP, and Randle, one of the most elite quarterbacks in the league, continued to develop as a player in between the regular season and going into the college football playoffs in their first round against Michigan. And one of the bigger challenges with the first round is that the higher-ranked team is going to be the host for the game. So playing in Michigan was going to be a huge test for this Georgia Southern team, one of the largest stadiums in all of college football. Now, you know that Randle's last appearance in the playoffs was his sophomore season with Oregon when they were the top dogs who got a bye and lost to Ohio State in their first game. Not only had Zaccheus failed to progress past the first round, but Marcus Jordan and Zach Meadows had never even taken their teams to the playoffs. The closest any of them got to winning a title was when Zach Meadows played against Georgia and lost in the SEC championship game in his sophomore season. Jordan had never made a conference title game and obviously didn't go on to play in the NFL, so in a way, Zaccheus was playing for all of them as well as for the family legacy. And it was a bit strange considering he didn't share the same last name as all of them, but that wasn't what was important. Zaccheus made a point of of controlling the ball on offense and limiting turnovers as much as possible by mostly playing within the offense. They got down to the 1 yard line and gave Meadows the ball, who got stuffed, but on 4th down, Georgia Southern ran a fake field goal for a touchdown. Fast forward to the beginning of the second quarter, and Michigan had it tied, but Z and the offense had the ball, and on 3rd and 11, somehow Michigan didn't expect a screen and sent 5 rushers. The biggest asset to the offense in this game turned out to be Randle's running when plays broke down. A pocket quarterback would need a lot more structure around him to pull off an upset like Georgia Southern was primed to do. Z and the Eagles wanted to run clock, but they also needed to take what they could get. They kept the defense on their toes with some read options, forcing the defense to make a decision and open up the middle of the field a little bit. Meadows' run on 2nd and 5 got them the first down, and on 2nd and goal, Randle hit his receiver over the middle on the slant and got down to the 1 yard line. Then later on 3rd and goal, Meadows capped off the drive with a touchdown to take a 14-7 lead. The Eagles and Randle really needed to maintain the momentum and the lead because the crowd noise was just insane in this game. It's partially why Zaccheus wasn't doing audibles, because his receivers could not hear him. So the offense needed to go out onto the field after the huddle, knowing what the play was going to be ahead of time, and no adjustments could be really made. After a big first down pickup, Z and the offense were in the red zone and threatening to take a 2-touchdown lead, but ultimately Michigan's defense did get the stop, forcing them for a field goal, which they ended up missing, which was a huge backbreaker considering all the effort they put into getting into the position for a scoring drive before the half. After failing to put up any points in the 3rd quarter, Michigan had ended up tying the game. Zaccheus was letting Meadows get some carries to wind down the clock a little bit before delivering a pinpoint dot to his receiver Virgin at the Michigan 35. This Michigan defense did stand up though and forced the Eagles into a 3rd down, and with everyone covered, Randle checked it down to his back and the Wolverines got the stop, but this time at least the kicker made the chip shot field goal. Thanks to Marcus' elite defense, Zaccheus got the ball back with 2.5 minutes left, still with the lead. The play calling was perfect on this drive. A combination of RPOs and read options kept the defense off balance, but on 1st and 10, Randle tried spinning back around the DB, but got hit and fumbled the ball, and somehow with 2 defenders on him, he was still able to get the ball back. With a tight game like this, where points come at a premium, this might have cost them the game. Z and the offense were in a tough spot on 2nd and 11, but after having run 3 straight runs and looking like they committed to burning clock, Randle delivered a dime up the middle to his tight end off of an audible. The crowd had gotten much quieter this late in the game. The Wolverines did eventually force a 4th down, and the offense kicked a field goal, knowing that Michigan would need a touchdown to win, which of course was a concern, but the Eagles D was the MVP of the game, and Georgia Southern squeaked out the biggest win in program history in the Big House. Randle had a conservative performance, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks, 1 fumble that he recovered himself, but 1 rushing touchdown as well with 90 rushing yards. After a miracle win against Michigan, Georgia Southern would finally get a neutral site game in the Rose Bowl against Rutgers, who had a 10-3 season, and they were ranked 4th. None of these games in the CFP were going to be easy, but after surviving playing a team like Michigan in a hostile environment, Z and the team only gained confidence. The Rose Bowl is where Zaccheus and Oregon had lost to Ohio State last time he made the CFP, but Randle didn't have any doubts that he could get a win for his team this time around. With Marcus and Zach both on the sidelines and Jordan, Asa, and Jeannie in the stands, he had all of his family supporting him in the biggest game in their family's history. He carried the legacy on his back this game, but in the red zone, Zaccheus was once again flirting with his first turnover of the postseason, ultimately throwing it to his tight end Plummer, but it got deflected by a DB and then bounced off of Plummer's foot and almost ended up being an interception. Randle was able to shrug that off, and on 3rd down delivered a perfect ball on a 10-yard out. On 2nd and goal, Meadows was able to find pay dirt, diving into the end zone to tie the game up. Rutgers bounced back with another score, and Z and the offense needed to close the gap before the end of the half. On 2nd and 7, Z trusted his big wideout KD Dorsey to get separation on the comeback route for the first down. Ultimately, Rutgers D-line was getting through on this drive and forced a punt, and Rutgers threw a pick on the next drive, giving Georgia Southern another opportunity to close the gap, and Randle relied on his scrambling to get from his own 25 into field goal range at the Rutgers 35, but his coach decided that the field goal was too much of a risk, and instead Randle and the offense tried for a wild touchdown with 3 seconds left, and Randle got the ball to his back, but Meadows couldn't find the end zone. The run game for the Eagles was doing alright, but Rutgers had both of their touchdowns on the ground across only 6 carries, and with so much success running the ball, Z knew that the offense was going to have to keep pace with Rutgers' offense or get left behind. The offense was working their way down the field, picking up first after first. Randle used all of his weapons, and time was steadily coming off the clock, but as long as they could tie the game or at least get a field goal, they were still in it. On 3rd and inches, they put the ball in the hands of Randle to make a play, and he found his number 1 receiver Buchanan, but he couldn't hold on, and to make matters worse, they missed the field goal. Zaccheus couldn't believe the D got another stop, and before coming out for this last drive, Zach came by and told him, do exactly what you did last drive, and you're scoring this time. These guys can't stop you. It's only you against you. Pick up those first downs. We got 1 quarter left to get it done. This whole team believes in you. And that's what Randle did, eventually finding his backup wide receiver Schmitz for the touchdown. Marcus and the defense got another stop, leading to Randle having the ball with a minute and a half to go. When and the team is in the semifinals, Zaccheus gets the Rose Bowl monkey off his back from his sophomore year, and he becomes a Georgia Southern legend, leading the team to the furthest it's ever gone in any college football playoffs or bowl game in team history. After a few perfect balls to the sideline, Randle noticed that there was no spy on 2nd and 8, ran to his left, and with no defender within 10 yards, booked it down the field, swerving his way around defenders and into the end zone for a touchdown. That was enough to advance to the semis next week. The team got to enjoy the Rose Bowl victory with everyone huddled around the trophy, and Randle won player of the game, delivering a speech and specifically thanking his two standout receivers, Buchanan and Dorsey, for all of the reps that they got in before the season even got started to get on the same page to make the run they've been on possible. Through 2 games, Randle had eclipsed the 1,000 rushing yard mark and still had yet to have a single turnover in the playoffs. Did you think after a freshman year with the Army that ended with a 1,000 rushing yard season, but also 10 touchdown passes to 17 picks, that Zaccheus Randle would transform into the quarterback he is in his senior season? Randle had plenty of advantages coming from an elite family sports legacy and being a 5-star recruit, but he didn't exactly pick the easiest path to success. In fact, many thought that his year with the Army would irreversibly damage his development into an elite quarterback. And originally, many fans of USC expected one of the 2 brothers to attend since their father had ties with California as a legendary Chargers running back, but ultimately neither Jordan or Zaccheus attended either UCLA or USC, with Jordan opting to go to Stanford instead. With a 7-3 lead, it was another low-scoring, tight game where Randle tried to limit his mistakes because he trusted Marcus and the defense so much. After narrowly escaping a huge sack, Randle set up a 3rd and 8 zone beater by shifting Buchanan to the left on a delayed go route, freeing up Meadows on the corner. That was something that you just would not have seen from Randle in his freshman year right there, reading the defense and having the patience to see the play develop. And not only that, but seeing the defense be confused, running no huddle to find Dorsey in one-on-one coverage for a big play to get to the red zone. On 2nd and 1, Randle was ready to hit Dorsey again, but hesitated when he saw the DB grab him and pump fake, but luckily after throwing the ball, the refs did call a defensive PI, putting the Eagles at the 1-yard line, perfectly setting up a play-action pass to their fullback who hadn't caught a ball all season, but he had balls of steel catching the pass for the 2-score lead. They got the ball again to end the 3rd quarter, and they were doing everything in their power to run the time down, but they had a few explosive plays to start the drive, and that got them down to the USC red zone. And with USC struggling to put up points in this game, 14 could be enough to win it, but the Eagles decided instead of taking a field goal that they'd go for the 1st down and got it in Wildcat with Z off the field. After converting the 4th down, they decided to burn as much clock as possible, but on 1st and goal, they tried to get in the end zone, doing a toss out to the left side from Meadows. Meadows got stopped, and then on 2nd and goal got stopped again. On 3rd and goal, they were going to run the ball once again. Instead, Randle audibled out of the look, and he relied strength on strength for Katie Dorsey to beat his man on a slant one-on-one, and Dorsey did it against their best corner on the team. That touchdown would be the dagger, and it would send Georgia Southern, Zaccheus, Zach, and Marcus to the college football championship game. In the final game of Z's career, he'd be going up against Clemson in New Orleans, coming out in the all dark blue jerseys, bringing a team and a conference that had long been forgotten about into the minds of every college football fan. Despite a 15-1 record, Clemson was the odds-on favorite to win and win by at least 7. The Eagles and Randle were seen as a Cinderella team like in college basketball's March Madness, but Zaccheus knew that they had the pieces to win the whole thing. Not once during this entire run did Randle think about his NFL draft stock. For one, he trusted his brother and agent Jordan to deal with that, but 2, he was totally bought into bringing a title to Georgia and not to the Bulldogs, in what would be the biggest underdog story perhaps in college football history. After getting a cool pitch to Meadows for the score, Zaccheus got the ball back and trusted him to run the ball despite some pretty bad averages over the postseason. He finally broke a run for more than 10 yards, setting up the Eagles offense at the 50-yard line, and Randle dissected the defense on 3rd and 7, shifting his tight end Plummer to the left and hitting him in stride on a drag for some yards after the catch in the 1st down. Later on 3rd and 6, Randle again saw zone defense and split it apart by being patient, waiting for Buchanan to streak open across the middle, and he nearly beat the 2 defenders for a score. Z ran another heavy formation play action rollout and hit Buchanan for the score to take a commanding lead to end the 1st quarter. Clemson did eventually get on the board, and Randle had another chance to put up points before the half and extend the Eagles' lead. The coaching staff continued to preach patience to Zaccheus and the rest of the team. Clemson in the 1st half kept relying on zone defense, and they were doing a great job of picking them apart whether by passing or by scrambling. Eventually they got down to the 11-yard line, and Zaccheus continued to manipulate pre-snap reads in the defense by changing routes and motioning receivers, eventually finding Plummer on the 10-yard in for the score. With a 2-touchdown lead at the half, the team was feeling good about their positioning, but Randle knew better than to start letting off the gas. He had seen it so many times before in his career, allowing a team to get back in the game. Clemson wasn't just going to go away, and they in fact scored a touchdown with a minute left in the 3rd. On the following drive, Randle had the ball near the 50-yard line, and he found his tight end Plummer again for a big catch through contact and man coverage, and Plummer really hadn't been much of a receiving threat all season, but he was coming up huge in this game, obviously. Randle later used a read option keeper to fool the linebacker reading the play, enough for Z to get down near the 10-yard line, but the offense stalled on this drive between an incompletion and a bad run, and the Eagles ended up settling for a field goal. While most of these playoff games were low scoring and Randle focused on slowing the offense down and limiting turnovers, it proved to be effective and prepared the team for crunch time when they needed to run the timeout. Randle's streak of no turnovers was continuing, and he finally felt redemption for his multi-turnover debut performance against Ohio State his sophomore season. The Eagles had finally done it. They did something that everyone thought was unthinkable. A mid-major college from a small conference had won the national championship game. Zaccheus got to bask in it on the field with all of his teammates and his family who were either supporting him on the field or off the field one way or another. Randle finished the game with basically a perfect performance, throwing 18 for 24 for about 200 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and 60 rushing yards. He also finished the season with 49 touchdown passes to only 14 interceptions, along with 1,200 rushing yards and 16 rushing TDs. Buchanan and Dorsey also finished with incredible double-digit touchdown seasons. And historically, across all the road to glories I've done so far, there have only been 2 players before Randle to achieve at least one championship. Those being Arlo Karamova, a defensive end, and Coke Johnston, who won the Super Bowl as a tight end. Randle now gave himself the chance to consider what his NFL career might look like with his family by his side.